Okay, so we're ready to start assembling the Jeep back together with the new bumper. Now, get a little closer up. These here are L brackets. These will insert into your frame rails with the to the outside. So this one here, so they would be oriented like basically like so. I know this isn't a very good view. Into your frame rails, and they just slide in like this. That's part of the reason why I went ahead and cleaned beyond just maintenance of the vehicle. And they will slide in. And let me grab the camera off of here so I can show you a little better. But they should slide in, and you can see right here, and basically line up on the sides. This would be step one, and then it would help if you had somebody with you, but there's ways of doing things. But with that in there, now we can find the hardware and slide the bumper in. And once I get a bolt or two through to just kind of hold everything in place to hold the bumper in place, then we can go underneath the Jeep, and this bumper will bolt through the frame rail on the sides, and it will also use the for mounting location through your cross member that my factory hitch used. So I'm going to dig through these bags, find all the correct bolts that I need, and then we'll come back and we will get the bumper tentatively fitted, and then tighten it up and get the bumper put on. Okay folks, so I did just a little checking online to make sure that I'm getting my hardware in the right order. You've got 4 long bolts that are going to go through the cross member and bolt where your OEM or aftermarket grease hitch receiver would go. So I've got it laid out in order, so it would go bolt, washer, then you would insert that through, and then on the back side you go washer, and then these are locking nuts with Teflon on the ends of it. So you would want to do again, bolt, washer, insert it through, another washer and nut. Now for your 2 on the sides, you'd have 2 on the left and 2 on the right, and you would want to do bolt, lock washer, and then flat washer. And what that's going to do is that when you put the bolt in and you tighten it down, that's going to keep the bolt from backing out. So you'd want to put them in that order. So we're going to set the camera back on the tripod and get the bumper set up in place. So your flanges that your bumper is going to bolt to the frame with are going to be on the outside of the Jeep. So if you're doing this by yourself, you're going to have to get jack stands. So let me shut the video off for a moment, and I'll get the bumper set up in place and show you how I got it set up. Okay, as you can see, I've got it tentatively set in place. I just had to pick it up, slide it on, and then I stuck my jack stand underneath kind of the center, because that's about as my jack stands won't go high enough to support on each end, so I'm going to have to do it on the center. But once I get a bolt in each side to hold it, it should stay in place. that didn't work well. So, instead of boring you with watching me struggle, let me get this put up here. Okay, so we got the bumper, we got the bolts, all 4 bolts on each side, started in, finger tight. I'm just going to say it is really recommended to have a friend because it is very heavy and awkward to try and do it by yourself. It can be done, but you might want to put some of the packaging underneath of it and expect to drop one side or the other a couple times wrestling with it, but it can be done by yourself. So now we're going to shimmy up underneath, and we're going to take our plate, this one here. Let me flip my screen back over. This plate here will go on the back side or towards the front of the cross member, and your 4 bolts will go through this, through the cross member and into the bumper. And then, like I said, it goes bolt, washer, then it'll be this piece, cross member, bumper, another flat washer, and then Teflon nut. So we're going to shut the video off because our battery's running low. I'll probably go find a charger real quick, and we'll shimmy up underneath and get this put on. Once you get this on, get those 4 bolts tightened up. That should align everything else on the bumper, and then it's just tighten all your bolts, torque them down. If you want to, of course, you know, don't over torque them, strip threads, and break bolt heads. But you want to make sure you got everything torqued down sufficiently. So, which I don't have torque specs on anything, so I'm just going to play it by ear. So I'm going to shut this off, go find a charger, and we'll come back when we're ready to start putting the tire carrier together. Okay, so we have the bumper on and in place. We have it bolted up. And I have to say, I do like the look of it. So I went ahead and took my wrapping off here and took my wrapping off of my stud for my tire carrier. I've done pulled this out, so now put the tire carrier on. It should be fairly easy. It should just be lining it up. And it should slip. Okay. So it's a fairly tight fit, so let me go get my rubber mallet and we'll get it put on. Okay, so now that I have my persuader, and you want to use a rubber or dead blow, you don't want to use metal, you'll just tear it up, possibly warp it. So let's try this again. So get this lined up and then okay. So you have, once you drive it flush, you have to drive it a little further because you do have a snap ring groove that's going to retain that. So now we have that in there. So let's find our little baggie of hardware. Here it is. And we'll go ahead and put our snap ring in. Which would be, that would be easier if I had the correct tools, but sometimes you just gotta make do with what you got. It is recommended to use a snap ring tool for this. Let me go grab a little screwdriver. Found a tool I forgot I had. So you take your snap ring pliers, and these are not very good ones, but just kind of set it in place. You want to spread it open and just slide it down over it. Now, a good set with the post would be what you want to use on this, but I have an old style set that okay, so it took me a couple of tries, but I got the snap ring on. Next, you want to insert your grease zerk. Now, it's an 8mm. It screws in right on top. Be careful not to cross thread. Run it down finger tight, and then take an 8mm and just snug it up. You want to be really careful not to over tighten this. So just till it's good and snug. So now we have that. Now the next thing would be we want to put our bolts in for our pinch. So should be the 2 hex head bolts. Looks like they only give you 2 washers with it. Let's see. So I'm assuming that the washers would go with your little stock bracket. So I'm going to set those back in. And now I'm putting them with the you have a Teflon lock nut that you want to put on, and these would basically just be snugged in as well. You don't want to over tighten them. So let me find the correct tools and we'll get those tightened down, and then we'll put our stop on. Okay, so we've got that. You don't want to over tighten those. It is fairly stiff. I anticipate that with use it'll loosen up a little bit, get a little easier to work. If it does start rattling, you can always tighten it a little bit. So now we're going to use the last of the hardware in that bag to install our tire carrier stock bracket. And you have an Allen head bolt, and I went Allen head bolt, lock washer, flat washer, and they give you the appropriate Allen key that you're going to need. So what you want to do is basically just line your bolt holes up that are already set up in the bumper for it. Of course, being careful not to cross thread or anything like that. But start both of your bolts. Once you get your bolts started in, then you can run them up and tighten them down. Okay, so I figured I'd bring you in for a little bit closer view of the setup. You can see your grease zerk, your pinch fitting. You have your snap ring in the groove, and then you have your two button head bolts with Allen for your stop. So, which, let me back it out of here. Sorry about that, folks. The battery died in the camera. Had to plug it in for a few. So we're ready to install the latch, and it's super simple. You've got another baggie of hardware that comes with two bolts, some flat washers, lock washers, and nuts. So you would want to do bolt, flat washer, insert it through the assembly. Then on the back side, take you another flat washer, lock washer, and lock nut, or sorry, just your nut, and then snug everything down. I think it's like a 16 and 17 millimeter that you would need to do this. So we're going to get this on and get it, and then move on to the tire carrier. Just a quick tip: your handle, rotate it up and out of the way so you can access your bolts easy. And also it comes with extra these. So later on down the road, these wear out, you need to replace them. You have an extra set, put them up someplace that you're not going to hide them from yourself, but you're not going to lose them either. So we're going to get this done, and then we're ready to put the tire carrier mount on. Okay, so we're ready to install the plate to the tire carrier. I'm doing bolt washer through the assembly and then locking nut on the back. I've chosen to use the fourth one down from the top. I'm running factory tires. I didn't want the tire to be mounted way high. The lower you can mount the tire, the better off you are. This one thing I want to note is these here, your factory little rubber stops. This was holding it off on the driver's side, so I'm going to trim this down and reinstall it. It was holding it off and not letting me shut the tailgate, or the tire carrier. So I'm going to trim this down as well. The passenger side went clear, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But this will be after we get this all done and buttoned up. So we'll get this put on. One thing I do want to note is that when you're installing this, the slot needs to face up and the open section of the tubing needs to face down. So you want to make sure to orient your attachment point correctly. So we're going to get this tightened up and then we'll finish the install. Okay folks, so we have the tire on and pretty solid. What I've done to get my spacing correct, because it is adjustable in and out, for I took my outside piece that bolts to the rim and I mounted it up, and I picked the whole tire and rim and everything and slid it into place. Once you slide it into place, you can open it up and reach through the back side of your rim to get your bolt started. You have two spots that have nuts loaded to it on the underside of the piece that your tire physically mounts to. And basically I went bolt, lock washer, washer, got it started, got it ran down to where it was close, and then just kind of bear hugged it up against the bar so that way you get it good and tight. And you can get a medium drive ratchet in there. You can't get a big drive, but you can get the medium drive in and just tighten it up to where it's good and snug. So now that we have that on there, we can close that back and check to see how it looks, which that put it about where the factory carrier had it. I could probably have mounted it a little lower, but truth be told, I think where it's at is going to work out well, because I do plan in the future to go to 35, so I may not even have to move it when I go up to 35. If I do, it may only be one notch. The manufacturer recommends that this carrier can be used with tires up to a 37. So that should never be an issue with me, because I don't plan on doing bigger than 35s. But that should have it in there. So let's check it. Yeah, it's on there good. I mean, it locks in place well. So I'm going to take, and like I said, I have, which it being brand new, everything's a little stiff. So I think that's going to wrap it up for the install video on this. Adjust the camera. I'm going to take and just off camera, just take and trim this, stick it back in. Okay, folks, so to finish up this install, I have trimmed this down. I probably took about half of it off. Easily done with a good sharp pocket knife. And then I don't want to go cutting and whatnot just yet. So what I've done is took my pigtail from my third brake light, and I ran a zip tie around this bump stop, and then zip tied my wire onto here. Yeah, it's got a little bit so it can move if it needs to. But that's going to keep it up out of the way, keep it protected. And then I may later on decide to do something with the spare tire carrier to get third brake light back up, or I may take and wait and look at, there we go. Look at, I've been looking at aftermarket options. You can take and buy one that mount back here that raise it up. You can mount, they have, I've seen two really unique ones. One is like a LED ring that would mount behind your wheel between, and so that would light up and plug in. And then they sell ones that go in your two empty lug studs that that would light up for a third brake light. So we'll look at it and evaluate and decide what we want to do for a third brake light on this thing. Until then, I'll probably just coil the wire up and put it out of the way where it's not going to get damaged or hurt. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. I will note that on this side, it does touch my license plate. So some people, when I was reading reviews, I know some people didn't like that. I don't really care. It don't bother me. So I'm happy with it. I guess you could always space it out a little bit if you want to. There is some adjustability in your side mount, so you would have to space it out at the cross member if you wanted to get that little bit of spacing, so it wouldn't rub. But like I said, I'm not terribly concerned with it. Everything cuts up nice and tight. It looks really good. If you have seen my video of the front bumper, then this is not new to you. But if you haven't, go check it out, because I'm going to leave my D-rings on, but I'm going to wire them onto it so that way the pin can't rattle loose and come out. And that's just a safety thing. That way, you don't lose your pins going down the road, that kind of thing. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see y'all later.